Welcome back, everyone, as we are diving in deeper into David Mertens' mind. We are back with another episode of BNI First Diamond Czech Republic chapter. Welcome back, David.
Thank you.
Great. And now for all of those people who know that there was a 1.0, but I don't have the time. I want to dive in deeper into the wisdom. Share in a nutshell, who are you? What do you do?
David, I'm working with a company or for our company Light in the Dark. So what we do is we do work with clients who would like to increase their communication skills through trainings, but also we do a lot of storytelling. We give storytelling trainings, but also do storytelling live in the streets for teams in the city of Prague, but also for tourists.
Very nice, very nice. Now, and if you want to know more about that particular subject, go and watch that first episode first and then come back to this one. So we're going to dive in deeper into a lot of storytelling and a lot of knowledge in this brain. So let's get started, David. First, can you share us a little more? Where did it all start? Why storytelling? Why is it such a passion of yours? And how did it all build up towards a business?
Yeah, it's a good question. When it all started, as mentioned, I had always like a big passion for stories, and so I'm a very curious person. The problem is that I was never really extrovert, just to meet people, but I found the way to connect with people and to get to know their story when I worked in the field of pedagogics after my studies, because I was super curious about the biography of people. Why do they have certain obstacles in their life, how to overcome them, how to unlock and help them to find their resources, to manage their challenges in life. So that is all about their life challenges usually. And of course it affected a lot the work they had. So therefore I was always curious about to understand what is from their point of view, what has been gone wrong, what can they do differently. And so I was always curious to talk to people to understand where they come from, who they are now and who do they want to become. And I decided at a certain point to work less in intervention and therapy, to go away from past and to focus more on the present and also on the future. So how to leverage, almost regardless to where they come from, but how they can leverage what they have now and today, and how can they go for their big dream, or how can they just maintain what they have achieved.
I love that.
Also mainly in terms of the well-being. So that was mainly focusing on that.
Great. And now your business Light in the Dark. Tell us a little more. Where does it stand today? How does the business look like? How many people are involved? What's around in the business?
So we have currently 5 people who are involved in doing tours in the streets of Prague, but also online through an engaging way through Zoom to also do team building events there. So that is the core of the group. I have a few people who work with me as contractors. I have a few people who are also supporting me in delivering the courses. So therefore that's about the trainings. So that's where I am there. I would say that this is like, I have to say it goes quite well, and I would like to give this appreciation to my team, because they have become better than me by now. So to tell stories effectively in the streets of Prague, and we have achieved by now more than 6,000 5-star reviews, and I think I would have never done that myself without a team. So.
And shout out for the team.
Exactly. So that is definitely for the team, which is Tomáš and Thomas and Oscar. We have Martin being involved. There's Alina a bit more in the background. I should not forget about 50% of the business is owned by my wife. So Lucy. And of course we have a few people who help with training. So Andra and some more people who are involved. So therefore I'm very happy about that.
Amazing.
So therefore that's where it is now. And we have come across that when we use storytelling techniques, it's not only more engaging to get more interactivity through the audience, but also we keep the oxytocin level up in our events, which does not only lead to good results in terms of reviews, but also tips for the guides, and also people come back. So and they come also back to learn it now themselves. So I think it's quite interesting that people first go for entertainment, and then they understand they can learn that themselves, so they go for courses.
I love that. So then they go from entertainment to education, and that's a great way of putting it, which is a fantastic alley-oop for me to take on to. So let's talk about the educational part. Let's talk about wisdom nuggets that we can give to the listeners right away on the spot. So no matter if you're an entrepreneur, business leader, or just a human, you're probably gonna get something out of this next session. So David, let's talk more about what is, in your perspective, something that people do wrong in storytelling.
Good question. I mean, overall, telling your own story, there's no wrong and right in that sense, that no one else could tell it better, because it's you, it's your story. It's where you get the most important outcome, which is an impact, which is authenticity, which is a key which often very smart and charismatic leaders and big organizations lack, because they just learned it in their business school, but it lacks the authenticity because it's not about themselves. And I'm coming from a work environment where people learned that if it's not about business, you should not talk about it. And unfortunately, that's not the way how we build relationships and trust, especially for leadership people.
Yeah.
So therefore, I think this is quite key to understand.
And since we both come from a corporate background, in fact, from the same company as well, but since we both come from that background, we can so relate with the company doesn't allow me to share my stories. These all things that we hear from storytelling perspective. So when is the right time to still tell your stories? Let's say as a business leader or someone who is in a higher level in a corporate, for example.
I think it starts directly at the introduction level. So famous leaders talk about their experience in terms of their work experience, about what they have done. And we are really good in our part of our world, where we talk in the Western civilization very often about what, where, and when we do things.
Yeah.
So the first question is often, what are you doing? So that's the first question, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, we stay really on the surface. We do rarely talk about why we do the things. So we talked early in our first episode about passion, for example.
Yeah.
So being passionate about what you do is about why you do that, but also who you are. So where are you coming from? Who you are now? And as mentioned, who do you want to become?
Yeah.
That's not only more powerful, but it engages people much more. So that also connects a bit to mistakes, because we often stay on that surface. We do not allow even ourselves to go deeper and to share why we are passionate about certain things.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. So if we allow me to go with that a little more and dive in deeper, when we do see those boring introductions, sorry to call people out, but those boring introductions where it's just title, should we share more in that particular slide that maybe someone built for you, more of the stories inside of these titles? Or when is the part when we talk about corporate world, for example, where storytelling is very difficult?
Yeah. So I think there are multiple ways. It's kind of keeping the authenticity up and also the engagement of people. So it's like icebreakers. People believe icebreakers need to be only in the beginning, and then everything will be fine. Yeah. But of course, the longer you stay with people, with an audience, you know that if you have a speech for 5 minutes, it's fine to have an icebreaker or a joke or a cool comment in the beginning, and maybe at the end. But when we talk about like half a lifetime you support teams or people, then of course you need to stay engaged with them.
Yeah,
so therefore
absolutely.
I know that storytelling is important, because you take people on a journey, not only to the past experience, but also maybe where you are going, so where you're heading.
Absolutely.
So I think taking people with you is very important. I think what often leaders do underestimate is the power of sharing vulnerability. When we do not work as politicians, we have an easy chance to talk about what are our weak points in order to get there a lot of trust and gain trust. So there's where we get the highest amount of oxytocin, because no one actually is perfect, and everyone has certain challenges or struggles. And that's of course wonderful. At the same time, we should not stay too much in the field of struggles and our crisis and how we disagree with all those things, because we release cortisol in the moment when we talk about it, for those who are listening. And of course, it does not inspire people to be better, become better in what they do, or to help them, to motivate them to face their challenges. So I think it's a mutual or good roller coaster in terms of the emotions. A good person who is leading teams is a thought leader who understands to tell a story that is kind of a roller coaster. It takes people from the level of cortisol up to the endorphins, the roller coaster, right?
Absolutely.
So the endorphins, the dopamine at the end. So there are so many ways to get good.
So finding the balance in between them. Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, your storytelling class is a good example, but other than that, that's a little too easy of an answer. So other than that, what would be a good tool that people could take in or improve in their storytelling skills?
Yeah, the easiest that comes to my mind is not invented by me. That was Jonathan or John Campbell, so 80s, but it relates actually to the evolution of our brain, because that's the way how we actually listen and have engagement flickering on the brain, as proven by scientists who can show it how much our engagement is visible of our brain on brain scans. And that's the hero's journey. The hero's journey is a simple tool everyone can apply, even if you go tomorrow for a job interview. You share a story about what happened, what was your challenge. You talk about what you have done to overcome that and what was the result. And by the way, famous enough, George Lucas is the one who made not only the Star Wars, but he only used one concept to create his movies, and that's the hero's journey. So everyone can actually start that. You don't have to become George Lucas.
Yeah, love that, and very true. It's so often people think I need to be a storyteller to actually tell stories, but anyone, as we went through in our first episode, anyone can truly share their stories and should share their stories. Now, David, from your perspective, what are some new trends or innovations that are happening in storytelling at the moment?
Yeah, so it's interesting to see that psychology is reinventing this important way again, or way of communication. So you can find it in famous business class by now in the UK, you can find it in the US. So storytelling has become a subject itself to study and to focus on. So therefore I think this is quite new, that people actually go back to the roots. And when we think about roots, maybe I can give that as an example. When we come from our times of tribes, we used to sit around a fireplace, and when we sat around a fireplace we talked about what happened on the day. So usually it was the moment to share our experience, but also to let go on those things we can't change, we can't influence, things that bother us. By talking about it, we might have found people who help us, for example, to overcome these. So this fireplace does not have to be literally a fireplace where you sit around a fire now, but we lost that completely. So many people, including myself, are doing the last thing of the day, quickly a business message on the phone before they switch it off. So we do not have this kind of way to let go on the things and to get back together with our relatives, but also our good relations that we have, to let go on the day. And that is something that I would say is something that starts to come now, this idea of how important it is to share your stories of the day before you move on, because often that's completely missing.
Absolutely.
You inspire others with the good things that happen and that what you have managed. So it's inspiring. It's as mentioned in the first episode, that's the first one where we talked about the mirror neurons, but also you can get support by sharing your vulnerability, and we don't do that anymore.
Absolutely. Could not agree more, and that's such a pity we don't do that anymore, because that's absolutely missing from humanity overall as a storytelling, for sure. Now, let's talk a little more about your business, and if you want to connect this to storytelling or tours or whichever you want to bring this towards to, let's see what comes out of your brain. But we want to hear, what is one interesting story or something that has happened in your business?
I would like to connect that to one thing that I do. So storytelling courses I do for different companies, and where I have my heart a lot is a company which I support that is called Climate Executive Coaching. And therefore I was very happy to have also a consultation for someone who learned about that I do this, and he wanted to use his story to make a sustainability change. So the story was quite interesting, and it got me goosebumps. And maybe here also will get some goosebumps. It was about half a year ago, and I had a person who asked for a consultation in storytelling. And I said, okay, we can do that. So what's your story? What is it about? And the person told me that he grew up as a child already with a lung disease, and he has serious health issues. And all the doctors told him that he needs to change the place. A bit of background, he lives in a big Dutch city, which is very industrial, and the air is so polluted that it's not healthy to live there. So he was told by many doctors to change the location to improve his health. But he decided not to change the location, he decided to change the air, to stay there and to help. He became a politician, he's the vice mayor of the city, and he wanted to go for better air, which he still does nowadays, to fight for a better air. And that is how great stories start and are made. And that is something that inspired me in order to say, that's I'm in the right place. This is what I would like to support. Just giving it structure, maybe giving some people some of the confidence they need to exactly tell such a story.
I love that. Wow. That's a story if there is one. That's a good one. Now, David, hearing all of what you gave, your wisdom nuggets, which you dropped a lot today, thank you so much for that. But hearing all of that, in case there's someone who is looking at this, listening and thinking, we need this guy, but do we really need this guy? Where's the connection? What should they hear? Why should people hire you overall as a business professional in storytelling?
Yeah. Well, I have to say there's no one solution. Of course, there's a course where people can learn about this, but often people have certain resources that others might not have. So allocating those ideal resources is important in order to use what they have in order to just tell their story. And that, of course, depends on what is it for. Is it for branding, that people will remember your name or your company? Is it for getting more attraction on social media? Sometimes it's also very personal, and those are often wonderful stories where people got to a certain point in lifetime where they had a defining moment. They had a moment which completely jeopardized their way how they lived their life, and they have to overcome this. They managed that, and now they would like to inspire others. So I look for individuals who have a great story to tell, but did not tell that yet, or lack this confidence to do so, because often changing the perspectives and structuring that helps them already to, okay, if I structure it this way, it's easy to tell it. So it's easier to tell, and we can inspire others. Absolutely. As mentioned, you can inspire people to take action to have a better lifestyle, for example. I have people who use the course in order to tell their story as a self-therapeutical tool. So it's not only for business, but it's also for people to just make their peace with what happened to them, or to inspire others.
I love that. And that's so beautiful thing about me actually having the experience going through your storytelling course, because even though I'm a quite advanced public speaker and won awards in the industry, I still got so much out of your storytelling course because it's so different perspective. So I would definitely add of like anyone who wants to be a public speaker or already is a public speaker, when you know stories are important and you know kind of how to put them together, knowing the background and the science behind stories is mind-blowing, I must say. So that's definitely another aspect that I would add there for you, for who definitely should be in contact with you. Talking about being in contact with you, David, for the end of our episode, can you share to our audience how can they contact you? Yeah. Where can they find you?
So for those who are in Prague, happy to invite you for a coffee to meet in person. And I'm always, as mentioned, curious. It's not about selling your course, it's about getting to know a person and to learn about their story. That would be wonderful. Easy to connect through LinkedIn, of course. That's the tool that I use daily. I would say that's the best way to get connection. Happy to provide my email address, whatever is needed. So happy to do that also.
Amazing. Thank you, David, so much. And we will drop all those links, as always, on the bio as well, so you can see them and get them very easily. Grab them from there and contact David. I must say, David, thank you so much. This was so many wisdom nuggets that you dropped here today that anybody can use in their business or their life. And it truly is always inspiring sitting down with you, because it's just, you learn so much more and there's just so much more to know. So thank you, David, for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And for everybody who is thinking, who are these people? What's going on? This was awesome, but where can I see more? We are meeting in Prague every single week, so feel free to use the link below and come visit us in our First Diamond chapter as well. And you can meet, for example, myself and David there in the meetings, and we can provide you more information about storytelling or about anything else. See you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye-bye.